Hi, welcome to Born Brazen, where we talk about all of the things that people are thinking but never actually say. I'm your host, Holly, and today we're going to be talking about something that is very personal to me, very traumatic in a way, but also I feel like is going to be very therapeutic. Before we jump into it, I want to give a disclaimer that I'm not a healthcare professional. I'm not here to give you any medical advice. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm simply telling a story of my life experiences in hopes that somebody will catch this and it will make a little more sense for them. It'll help them in some way navigating through their troubled times. Trigger warning here. We will talk about child trauma, substance abuse. So, if that's something that you're not ready to hear or you're not ready to talk about, go ahead and move to a different episode, and no hard feelings here. So, let's get started. Have you ever met somebody in person or over the internet, I suppose, and ever just watched the way that they work and thought, they're really off? They're really weird. Maybe their personality is not something that you're used to. Maybe you don't feel comfortable near them. Maybe something's just a little off. They're too loud. They make too many jokes. They don't make enough jokes. They seem a little brash. But do you ever really take time to think about what that person's been through to shape them in the way that they are? I think as a society, we don't do that quite enough. We take people at their face value. We take that 5 second interaction with them and make our judgment and keep it moving. And for an interview, that's perfect, right? They have to catch your attention as soon as they come in. But for your everyday interactions, sometimes that just doesn't cut it. I've been called in many job areas and many personal areas that I am not serious enough. I make jokes and use humor in the most inappropriate situations. I'm brazen. I'm too direct. I come off as a bitch. I don't seem personal. I don't seem very sensitive or caring. And all of those really could be the opposite from who I actually am. My life lessons that I've had since I grew up has made me the person that I am. And you'll understand a little more as I talk through it. So I'm going to give you a little history about me. We're going to start way back to 1986. I know, 40's approaching. It's hurting my feelings. Where I was born in Virginia. Something that I think I will note that will make a lot more sense as I'm telling this is that while I was pregnant, or excuse me, while I was in my mom's belly when she was pregnant, she was abusing prescription medication. No complications during the pregnancy that I know of. No complications during the delivery that I know of. When I was born, however, she was prescribed medication that she took to help her. I don't really remember much of my life up till about 6 or 7, which I think is pretty common. I do remember that I moved to Ohio for some time. I remember some situations put it to where my grandpa had to come up and take care of me while we were in Ohio. But what I really do remember is when we moved back to Virginia and I started into middle school, going through all the childhood, preteen things, and also knowing what laid ahead for me at home. So, my mom was addicted to prescription medication, which eventually led to alcohol abuse, which then led back to prescription medication, eventually leading to really hard drugs all throughout my life. My mom was a very depressed woman. She had a lot of issues. Unfortunately, I believe back then mental health was not something you talked about. It wasn't something that was widely expressed. So she dealt with it the way that she thought was necessary. Do I fault her for it? Sure. Now that I am a mom, there's nothing in the world that I would do to put my children through that, but it is what it is. She did what she did. I'm sure she had her reasons, but addiction is a hard thing. My dad was also addicted to alcohol. Now, growing up, I did have my mom and dad. They were married, although my dad wasn't around very often because he was in the military. So he traveled a lot, which left me at home with my mom. Maybe single parent life, I would say, since he wasn't really around, which means I didn't have much of a relationship with him. His idea was spending time with me, was coming and picking me up and taking me shopping, buying me dinner, taking me to a movie and dropping me back off, which at that time I was like, heck yeah, this is amazing. Obviously, later in life, realized that I'd rather just spend the time with him. But, anyways, growing up was hard when I hit about 7 or 8 with the drug addiction and me being home by myself with my mom. I had to deal with a lot of things that I don't think many kids have to deal with, such as overdoses, such as my mom leaving for a couple of days and I me at home by myself trying to feed for myself and fend for myself. Um, it's hard to navigate through those times, especially when you don't have anybody else there. I had a neighbor in my neighborhood, and she was great. She was there. She knew exactly what was happening in my life. So she was there when I needed her, but it's embarrassing. When you're that young, you have all those things going on. The last thing you want to be is the weird kid. When I went to school, I acted like nothing was wrong. Bullying was a thing, y'all. It's not a recent thing. Bullying happened for as long as I can remember, and I did not want to be bullied. Life was hard enough at home without it being hard at school. School was kind of my safety. It was a place where I could go that I could control things that I couldn't control at home. I couldn't control my mom. I couldn't control things that were happening around me. I was barely able to make something to eat, much less control things that were happening. So safety really was my go-to, my way to get away from everything and unwind. However, when you're going through a lot of trauma at home, it's hard not to reflect that elsewhere. So I quickly developed a mask, and that's what I've called it. It's my fake mask, similar to your customer service voice. My husband always laughs at me. He's like, "You're really blunt until you get on customer service, and then you're a happy Holly." But I put this mask on like life was great. I had good friends, I made good grades, nothing was going on at home. Everything was perfect. I was always happy. Everything was going great. Now, mind you, I didn't need or want for the essentials, right? For the most time, we had food. I always had a roof over my head. I always had the things that you should need in life that pretty much prevent you from being taken away from your parents. But I never actually had that love and that support and that parent influence. So when I went to school and I put that fake mask on, it was my way of letting everybody know that I was perfect. Come home from school, that was a totally different situation. So as I go through my school and I have this mask on, I only let maybe a few people in my life. One best friend, I would say, throughout all of my time. I had a lot of friends, but that one person that I stayed at her house a lot with her parents, they were pretty much my second parents. I stayed a lot with them. That was some stability that I never really had. And I'm so appreciative to that. Things that I could never take back is that love and support that I had from them. Things in school didn't really start to get rough until My mom was on the Most Wanted channel. Now in Virginia, they had, at least I don't know if they do now because I don't live there, but they had a Most Wanted channel. And what that meant is anybody who had a warrant out for their arrest posted their picture and everything, and it just scrolled 24/7 on that channel. One of the kids that I went to school with was browsing through that channel because what else do you browse through, I suppose? And found my mom on there. And he lived in my neighborhood, so he knew exactly what she looked like. He ended up going to school and telling the whole school. And that's when things took a turn for the worse. I started being bullied. I started being looked at really weird. That mask that I put on wasn't cutting it anymore because everybody kind of knew something was going on. They didn't know exactly, but they knew exactly. They knew something was happening. Going through those times, I thought maybe if I just bucked up to this guy and said, hey, knock it off, like you don't know what you're talking about, it would get better. That only landed me in the principal's office. So fast forward that year closes out, and I'm thinking, finally, start fresh, new year. This is going to be perfect. Not really. Next year, my mom and dad decided that they were going to start going through a divorce. So, as my dad was making his plans, and let me tell you, it was for the best. He needed to get away. I know it was unhealthy. I was there, I was living it. I knew it was unhealthy. While he was gone, between the substance abuse and the pill addiction, there was the random guy that came over that was a boyfriend, right, or a friend, let's say, and I knew it wasn't true. I knew it was more somebody that she could get high with. But that caused a lot of friction. I was also the party house. My mom was high half the time, so people were in and out of our house. Drugs were in and out of our house. Liquor was in and out of our house all the time. So I mostly stayed up in my room. I remember my dad bringing me, I was about 10 or 11, and he brought me into the washer and dryer room and said, the laundry room, and said, this is how you wash your clothes. This is how you make something to eat. This is how you clean. This is how you do this. To give me a better understanding because he knew I was going to be taking care of myself. So as the process goes of going through the divorce, DFAX shows up to my school. They call me over the speaker. They have me come in. Mind you, all the kids are watching this. Everything is being watched. Kids put two and two together. Wait, her mom was on the Most Wanted list. DFAX is here for her. Oh, that made it even more worse. I want to say that's where my depression really started kicking in. When I felt alone, I felt by myself. I had all these people. I had my best friend around me. I had all these people around me, but nobody was actually around me, or so it felt that way. But I still put that face on, I still put that mask on. I still worked through the days, acted like everything was fine. Moving forward through high school, figured I would get a job, get some responsibility under my belt. That didn't work for too long. I couldn't find anybody to take me to work. Things were just a little rough. Tried to find an outlet through relationships. I've always been one that just didn't really need that support as far as attention, but just wanted that you see me and I matter support. Really did find that through a couple of my relationships when I was a kiddo, um, until they kind of ended tragically as well. One of my relationships, fatally, he died in a car accident. Another one ended up going to jail. And these were a couple, we're not talking about like a week or two dating. We're talking about 6 months or longer. that we were dating. So still 17 years old. I'm fighting every day. At this point in time, we live with my grandmother. I'm sleeping in the front room because there's not enough couches or there's not enough rooms in the house. Um, Making it each day that I can, planning out my future. Like, this will not define me. This will not be who I am. Finally, meet my ex husband and thought, well, now I have it all together. I have somebody that I see a future with. Graduated high school by the skin of my teeth. Graduated high school, was still in this relationship, started college before I even turned 18, which was a real bummer when people wanted to go out and club. And I was like, hey, not 18 yet. See you guys tomorrow in class. But went to college before I was 18. The day I turned 18, I moved out, left, never looked back. Didn't take anything with me, never looked back. Thought, this is the road ahead. Going to school, getting ready to get married soon. You know, then comes a house, then comes the babies, then comes happily ever after. And little did I know, that was the start of a whole new era that wasn't going to go nearly like I planned. We're going to have a part 2. We're going to start with a second where I'm going to talk about more the latter half of my life. I didn't get into too many details. Wanted to be aware of trigger warnings. I know that's really tough for people. And also didn't want to get on here and come across as I'm trying to have self-pity, because I'm telling you, people are out there that are doing so much worse. You know, you have rape victims. That's awful. You have people that are homeless. You have kids that were, sexually abused when they were younger. I was physically abused. I was emotionally abused. I was mentally abused, and that's enough. That's enough, right? Um, I went through that as well as I could. I put that face on. I used humor to get by, because if I was funny, they had no time to look in deep and see what was really going on. And as I'm going through this process of starting this channel and trying to see where this wants to go, I realize that I have a story to tell, and I'm hoping if it reaches one person, it's going to make a difference. And that's all I want, is for one person to hear this and say, I know what she's going through. I understand. I feel that, man, I went through something similar. Man, I'm not the only one. Maybe this isn't as crazy as I think it is. I just want to be able to tell my story, reach somebody that it could help, that could maybe relate, because that's really hard when you go through trauma, is finding somebody to relate to. Everybody says, oh man, I can't imagine, or I know how you feel. It's like, but you really don't, because you weren't there. So hopefully, sorry guys, I'm going through a cold. Hopefully this can reach somebody and really help them. I appreciate you listening to this almost 20 minutes episode. I'm hoping that part 2 will give you more clarity, more understanding on how I am and where I am the way I am right now. It does get better. So stay tuned for part 2. Please, please, please. Thank you for listening. Like, share, comment, hit the notifications, subscribe to my channel so you can get all the things. I just appreciate you being here. I love it that you're here. I just can't say enough. Thank you for your support. I hope this helps, and I look forward to seeing you again on the next episode. Have a great day. Stay positive. Stay brazen. Talk to you later.